Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the 22nd episode of the FPL Wire powered by DreamSetGo. We are recording ahead of Game Week 24. I'm your host, Zophar, and I'm joined as always by Twitter stats guru, Big Man Bakar. How's it going, bro?
Thanks for having me, Zoff. Before we begin, I'd like to say that we are dedicating this episode to our regular listener and viewer, Dylan. I got a text from his brother very recently on my Instagram, and he told me that Dylan was very recently diagnosed with cancer type 2. So, our best wishes and prayers are with him, and we wish him a speedy recovery. Uh, all the best to you, Dylan.
All the
Stay
best.
strong, Dylan. Hope you recover quick. How about the game week, Bakar? How was the week?
It was wrecked by Suchek, so let's not talk about it. I mean, I ended up on 63, which was 62 actually, which was below par. I guess it could have been worse given what happened that day with Suchek. I before you guys ask ask me to speak about him, I don't really have anything to say because I have a toxic relationship with the guy. So I'll just keep my mouth shut. 60 through 2 points. I guess I'll take it given the fact that what happened there. And then I had Calvert Lewin on the bench, which was very, very annoying. Um, Ended up with Calvert Lewin, Kilman, Martinez all on my bench. That's like 29 points right there. But I guess that's
Ouch.
the case with a lot of FPL managers this week. So no point beating yourself up. It's time to move on to the next game week.
You talk like we beat you up over Suchek. I'm actually trying to be very supportive when it comes to Suchek, and don't treat me like that.
I'm not.
I mean, I
I think you need to differentiate between the attitude and the bullshit Zoff gives you and I give you when it comes to Suchek.
okay, I'll be more considerate towards your reaction to this next time. Yeah.
The whole world wants to know, but are you going to be playing him this week? I think that's why everyone's tuning in today.
Unfortunately, yes.
No, take one for the team, bro.
Unfortunately, yes. I can't
Third
wait for
sub.
another
Third
own
sub.
goal.
Third
I
sub.
can't wait for another own goal and red card to come my way.
What a rubbish red card also, by the way. I felt so bad for him. Even he was feeling like I didn't do anything when that red card. What an absolute rubbish
It was
decision.
shocking, but the strange thing, as soon as Mike Dean went to the camera, the fact that it is even recommended, I knew this is going to be a red.
Yeah, it was an absolute joke. I mean, he even tweeted after the game that he played like above 200 games in his professional career, and this was the first time he's like gotten a red card. And of course, it had to be the one time I played him and I announced on the pod that I was going to play him. Like, what were the chances?
And the sad part is, the red card actually hasn't been rescinded. Just the suspension has been rescinded. So that red card actually stays on his record.
Yeah, and the sad part is the Twitter community did not get to witness that video of Waka dancing at the wedding as well.
That's true.
We need to set up another opportunity for that.
Very true. So, how was your game week, LR?
Decent week. I got 63 points. I had a city double defense. I took the -4, so that's 59 net. But most of my attackers came through. I had DCL, I had Bamford, I had Son, I had Fernandes, I had Salah. The only real issue I have is I was talking to you guys about Antonio having issues with his width and with the width of the pitch at Craven Cottage, and I was wondering if he'd struggle against Fulham, and that's what actually happened. And I was in Bamford captain all week, and then just last minute, you're not having a really good season, so you're sort of second guessing yourself quite a few times. We were having that chat, often you mentioned that happens, when the things are not going your way. And I just last minute for some reason switched to Antonio Cap, so I lost out on 4 points. It could have been a lot more because Bamford missed a ton of big chances in that game against Palace. So I need to start backing my instinct a little more and not second guess myself. How about you, Zoff? How was your week?
70 points, but not much movement in terms of rank. I think from like 65k to 64k, the 70 points you'd expect more movement, but the template now is really tight. But we'll talk about that more. I think the next few weeks we'll see the template scattered up a little bit.
Yeah. We're heading into chip season and you're not losing ground. We always discuss the importance of holding your
Totally.
ground, and I think a grey arrow at 65k is a good place to be. You're not going to expect to get a green every time. Just wait for the right moment to jump.
Yeah,
Lot
with
of
the
lot
chips
of
to come, he's set a solid foundation for himself. So I'm sure he's gonna gain rank soon.
Hopefully, a lot of chip strategies to discuss. We'll get into that. But before that, a quick word about our sponsors. DreamSetGo is a global portal for fans to gain access to sporting events around the world. Accommodation, flight tickets, hospitality, stadium visits, everything can be tailored exactly to your requirements. They also do celebrity experiences, which include masterclasses with your favorite sports celebrity or something as simple as birthday shoutouts. You can find links to the products in the description below. The FPL Wire is a part of the Fantasy Scout Network, and all stats used in this podcast are taken from the FFS members area. Please sign up if you haven't already.
And also, we have a lot of exciting offers and giveaways. So, DreamSet Go has introduced a 75% discount code for all our listeners and subscribers. All you need to do is fill in the Google form, and you'll get a coupon code emailed to you. And once you use that coupon code, you can get a 75% discount on all the celebrity video shoutouts that DreamSet Go have available on their platform. So, fill out the Google form in the description below, and subscribe and avail the discount coupon. Also, we finally have set up an FPL Wire league. The league code for the benefit of the listeners, you can see it on the screen, and for the benefit of the listeners, I'm going to read that out. It is DOC0YG. Join this league code, and what's happening next game week onwards is we have exciting Manager of the Week prizes for people winning the game week. And you're going to get some exciting video shoutouts from celebrities like Herschel Gibbs, Harbhajan Singh, Mayanti Langer, JJ. And it's worth playing for because you're getting some kick-ass shoutouts from all these guys. Speaking of giveaways, Bakar, you're in red. Valentine's Day on Sunday. Anything happening there?
No, not really. Let's see. Let's not talk about it. I mean, it's an FPL show. Why are we discussing this?
I mean, come on.
Like, even if I dress up in some random color, you bring this nonsense up.
Come on. I was thinking if Suchek scores, Buckers gave away a date or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, let's get serious.
Let's not go there.
Taking you guys to the agenda for the pod today. We have Bucker's 3 hot red stats up first. After that, we're going to be looking at the fixture scan because there's a lot of double game week news and moments happening. We're going to be talking about meta strategy. After that, we're going to be talking about double game week teams. We're going to be talking about hot fixtures, captaincies, our own teams, and the Q&A. Also, in case you guys don't already know, we started a Patreon page. And if you guys want to support us, you can find us at patreon.com/the FPL Wire. We just have 2 tiers. Shout out to people that have joined the Jimmy tier this week. We have David Burton, Johnny Pringle. I believe that's FPL Pringle. And in the Omar tier, we have Abhishek. This is just because we really want to invest back into the channel and grow the channel, which is why we started this Patreon page. And it's pretty much like buying us a cup of coffee or a beer or 2 every month. Let's move straight into Bakar's 3 top stats. But I think before that, guys, we had a lot of action in the last 2 days in the FA Cup. I think it's worth doing a little rundown in terms of what happened. And there were a few injuries, a lot of yellow flags in everybody's team. I think people are going to be confused. So let's talk about what happened. I mean, first up, I think it's worth discussing that Everton Spurs game. I believe DCL had a slight hamstring problem and he got off in around the 55th minute. Yeah. Does it look serious to you guys? Do you expect him to play?
No.
I doubt it. I think it's likely to be serious. Hamstring problems, they take a while to heal anyways. I don't expect Calvert-Lewin to feature in this game week personally, which is very annoying given the timing of it and the fact that he was coming into form, looking like a good option once again, and just at the moment when we really needed him this week, he's kind of not been there. So that's annoying. Other than that, there have been a few other injuries as well. Pope is a doubt apparently for the game against Crystal Palace. We don't know more about that. Like Sean Dyche is scheduled to hold a press conference later tonight.
I mean, I read the quote and Dyche mentioned that he wasn't able to make it for this game.
Yeah,
I feel like Pope's going to be able to be.
I'm not worried about.
Yeah, Pope. I think he's going to be okay as well. Yeah. I think he's going to be okay.
Who else? Wilson's out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, but Diaz said apparently is carrying some sort of illness. I think it's a fever and stomach problems and all that stuff. But I think that should be okay for him to recover. It's not like a muscular issue. DCL is quite annoying because all three of us got him in anticipation of this double, right? A couple of weeks ago, we knew they were going to have a double around this time. So that's quite annoying. And there's no like for like replacement in him, right? Richarlison doesn't inspire confidence at all. He scored a brace, but I don't think I want
Two
to go.
good goals as well. Two good goals as well. I caught up with the highlights. He looked pretty sharp.
Right. So
Yeah.
we'll discuss that.
Anybody else?
I think Justin. Yeah, James Justin.
Justin, yeah. Antonio.
Anthony was in FA Cup. That's why we're not really like talking much about that.
Yeah, but he's
Fair.
he's not he's 50-50. He's sort of a doubt for the next game against Sheffield United, so that's worth monitoring. Luka Dean also had a knock, and that's important to mention because I saw the FPL page and I was looking at Dean and he
He's
had a
yellow
knock
flag.
and 75% chance of playing. So worth mentioning. Point being that hold on to your transfers until Saturday morning. Wait till all the press conference news is out. Wait till all the news in terms of the embargoed pressers, which you get late on Friday night or early Saturday morning. Wait till all that news is out before you make your moves because there's a lot of things in play. We could even, we are going to be talking about the blanks and double game weeks later. But I was chatting with Ben Krellin, who's on top of all things doubles, and he mentioned that there's a slight chance we could get the news for the double game weeks in game week 26 before the game week 24 deadline as well. He says it's very likely we're going to get it between Monday and Friday next, and a very slight chance we get it after the game week 25 deadline as well. So I think it's worth waiting and holding onto your transfers for as long as possible before you make your moves.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So
Anything else? Anybody we missed out on?
nobody.
I don't
else
think so.
could
I think we've
of,
discussed
but
everyone.
A lot of teams
important.
played 120 minutes, right? That's something to take into factor as well. I think who else is West Ham,
Both?
Man United, Spurs.
Everton, Spurs, yeah.
I mean, the thing that stood out to me is both of City's opponents played 120 minutes, and
Exactly.
both fairly strong teams as well. I think, except for Kane, all their main players played 120 minutes. So I think it's advantage City. It already was, but even more so now.
Yeah, City strolled. I think they were 3-0 up by like the 50th, 55th minute. They took off
Yeah.
from the
57th minute, Gundogan and Sterling both got sub.
Yeah. Worth mentioning that Rashford also got 120 minutes in his life. I mean, there's an easy fixture against West Brom. Bruno was rested. He didn't start for that game, which is a good thing. So yeah, worth mentioning that.
Did Cavani start?
No,
No.
he was also pretty rested. Great punt for this week
Yeah.
for people wildcarding in 25 or even in 26.
Shaw wasn't playing either, right?
Shaw wasn't playing either.
Tellus, I remember seeing Tellus.
Tellus played that game. So a lot of the big guns at United rested for the West Brom game, which bodes well for us.
Right.
Okay, Bakar, I think that's it when it just comes to scanning through what happened in the FA Cup. Floor's yours, sir.
Sure. So, like always, I have 3 stats for our listeners and viewers this week. The first stat I have is regarding the Liverpool defense. So, no team has conceded more big chances than Liverpool in the past. No team conceded more big chances than Liverpool in the preceding game week, and which was precisely the reason they had the worst XG by a distance, XG conceded by a distance as well. Only 6 teams have conceded more big chances than Liverpool this season, which is actually very shocking considering that we're speaking on the 11th of Feb, and if we've more than half the season is gone. And when you see the stats, Liverpool are actually 13th for big chances conceded, which just tells that their defense has been a bit of a disaster this season. Even the likes of Burnley and Newcastle have conceded fewer chances. To put things into context, Liverpool have already conceded 50% more big chances than they did at this stage last season. They've already conceded 45 this season, 45 big chances, as compared to 30 last year. When I compare this to the data in 2018-19, then they've conceded 70% more at this stage this season. This season, they've conceded 45, while they conceded 24 big chances in 18-19. They're now up against the Leicester side with Vardy back, and I can't honestly see a clean sheet for Liverpool this week either. So my advice would be for those holding Trent, particularly Robertson, because Robertson isn't really offering as much value. Trent is at least posting some better attacking numbers. So particularly with Robertson, I think it's time to sell because I don't really see a clean sheet coming up this week.
He's looking very tired right now, isn't he? Is Robertson. Trent looks
mentally and physically. And Jamie Carragher mentioned that on the Monday Night Football show that this is a body language of like Robertson, right? He used to be one of the most aggressive fullbacks in Europe, and now it just seems like he's tired. And he's played, I think, 91% of the minutes since like Klopp took over or something like that.
Yeah. Klopp doesn't seem to trust the other left back. Like he gets most of the games.
Milner can play there, I guess. I mean,
Right, but he's
he's
been
a
needed in
person who.
midfield of late, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Klopp starts playing Kabak in defense now, and we see all these players playing in their correct
Lots of
positions.
Liverpool fans are calling for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he would
Henderson
have
needs to play in midfield for sure.
for sure.
Yeah,
So
I'm
the
looking
sec-
at
Sure.
Trent. I mean, just while on this point, if I'm wildcarding in 25, I'm looking at Trent on that wildcard because his fixtures in 26, as per Ben Kellen's sheet, could be Sheffield United away and Chelsea at home. Now, what I've noticed with Chelsea as is there's a lot of possession, but not a lot of chances that they're creating at the
Yeah.
moment. So I quite fancy one clean sheet out of the two, and then after, it's the fixtures after that as well. Trent has Fulham at home and Wolves away after that as well. So I'm looking at going there because it's quite a differential, as you
Yeah,
mentioned.
I'd probably pick Trent as well on my wild card. His numbers are actually very good in recent weeks. For the past 4 or 5 game weeks, I noticed his numbers are on an upward trend. So he's someone who's worth mentioning, particularly when
Yeah,
the fixtures he's out. But for the next 2 game weeks, I mean, this week has Leicester, then Everton next week.
yeah,
It's hard. I mean, I don't really see a clean sheet, particularly when there are other options with double game weeks. I don't think they represent value at the moment.
yeah. And I don't think people should jump off Liverpool so easily. I think there will be a reaction. I think they're still comfortably the second best team in the league at the moment. I mean, they got a beating at the hands of by a team far and above
Exactly.
them, who is the best team in the league. So don't read too much into the City result, in my opinion.
Exactly. Besides, their attacking numbers haven't been as bad as their defensive numbers. So I mean, for those managers holding on to the likes of Salah, I mean, it's fairly obvious to hold them for a bit. The next stat I have this week is basically a combination of the Spurs attack and the City defense. I say this in context to the Man City versus Spurs game coming up, which is basically the first game that Man City will have in their double game week. So, with the exception of the game against Man United when United were playing with 10 men, Spurs have an average XG of approximately zero point 0.5 against the top sides this season. By top sides, I refer to 4 teams: Leicester, Man City, um, Liverpool, and which was the fourth team? I forgot the fourth
Chelsea.
team. Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah.
um, so little should be expected from Son and Kane, while chances are the Man City defense will yet again will be in the points. I was looking at the data of Man City since game week 10. They've conceded just twice from open play, and it comes across as no surprise given how outstanding their numbers have been. So since game week 10, City have conceded 2.8 times fewer big chances, 1.9 times fewer XG, and 1.4 times fewer shots inside the box than the second best team in the league for these underlying statistics, respectively, which just tells me how elite their defense has been. Um, they have by far the best odds for at least one clean sheet this week as well. So I think there's every chance that a City defender hauls yet again, and for those FPL managers who are looking to get rid of one of their City defenders, I don't think it makes too many sense. I mean, for you it's different because you have triple City defense, right? But
Yeah.
I see a few managers who are looking to sell Diaz just because of the injury, and I won't exactly recommend it personally.
I'm worried about that once I saw the Spurs Everton highlights. Everton conceded 4 goals. 3 of the goals were conceded on corners, set piece threat. They haven't been really doing really well when it comes to defending the set pieces as
Yeah,
well. And three
Wilson
goals out
scored
of
from a set piece against them very recently.
yeah,
Callum Wilson from a corner.
yeah, so they are a little bit of a they are having a little bit of a problem when it
Yeah.
comes to their set pieces and defending there. So could be something for Stones, and yes, Stones playing against his old club as well, rested fully in the FA Cup. Yeah, I don't feel like losing Stones because there's a little bit of a attachment because he was my double game week hero and all that. So yeah, let's see.
There's a lot to unpack in terms of the City defense when we talk later in terms of meta strategy now, because Champions League is starting. They have a bit of a cushion now in the league. So we'll talk about that more in detail once we get to that aspect.
Sure.
The third stat I have this week is regarding the Leeds attack. I wrote this stat keeping in mind the large number of teams I came across this week. I came across like a lot of teams who had Bamford, Rafinha on the bench, particularly Bamford. I would personally not recommend benching Bamford at all. Um, no player in the league has accumulated more shots inside the box and big chances than Bamford this season. He's on penalties as well, and over the past 4 matches, Leeds are top for shots inside the box and are in the top 4 teams for XG non-penalty. So their attacking numbers of late are witnessing an upturn. I I also noticed that Leeds are actually top for shots inside the box away from home this season, and their upcoming game is against Arsenal, which is also away. So Leeds, and and like not only the numbers, the numbers suggest that Leeds are actually better attacking side away from home. Very recently, Bamford in an interview himself acknowledged the fact that given the state of the Leeds pitch at home, they're actually better. Their style is actually better to playing away. So I think their attack is basically on another level away from home this season. I don't personally own Bamford right now, but given the improvement I see in Leeds numbers, I'm personally terrified of him, and I honestly would not recommend benching him this week, given how Leeds are playing. I mean, I can see another Bamford Hall.
Bakar, if you're pulling out home away stats for Bamford or any Leeds players for that matter, worth creating the subset of data from the last 2 games because they do have a new pitch rolled out as well. So
Yeah,
that
but like the thing is, I would have liked to include it, but like Palace isn't exactly the kind of fixture I would like to base my
yeah.
assessment on, because
Yeah.
like Palace, they they're just really poor.
No, I'm
So
just saying for future
yeah, I
use
get
it
it.
will
I
be
get it.
good.
I'll
Yeah.
make sure of that. Yeah, I'll make
Yeah.
note of that. Thanks.
Okay.
But the problem is, even though the pitch was a good pitch, Bamford complained about it, and we saw during the Everton game, everyone was slipping.
Yeah.
The pitch
Yeah.
hadn't settled yet. Bamford talked about he had to use rugby studs and all that stuff. And you can see the whole time while he's talking, he's almost apologizing to the press officer in front of him for criticizing
Yeah.
the pitch. It was quite funny.
Another thing with Bamford is that he tends to take FPL very seriously in his interviews, and
As everyone should.
he often captains himself, and he's very particular about the number of points he gets every week. So as someone who who's interested in FPL, I'd assume that he'd want to do he'd have extra motivation to do better, which bodes well for the FPL managers who own him.
Well, when it comes to Palace, he had even more extra motivation because old club and Hodgson didn't play him a lot. So I think
100th goal as well.
Yes.
he was determined to make his mark against that Palace team and against Hodgson in particular. I reckon.
Right. Should we
Yeah.
move on now to the double game week discussion or anything else to add here?
No, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
We're done.
So I brought up Ben Krellen's sheet over here. So
Just
much to unpack. Where do we start?
just before that, people are looking at the sheet in front of us. Just want to tell you guys, as you can see, the key on the left hand side is very important when it comes to Ben Krellen's sheets. The fixtures that you see in yellow are confirmed as the double game weeks,
Mm.
and the fixtures that you see in brown are looking like double game weeks that very likely happen, but they are not 100% confirmed, and anything can happen. We'll likely get information with regards to the double game weeks in 26-27 by the game week 25 deadline. We're hoping for that. So all of this is speculation based on Ben Cullen, and he's one of the best people to bet on. So just wanted to mention that.
Right. So let's have a look first at game week 24, which is what is right in front of us. City have Spurs and Everton. I think we'll get into that more once we talk about the fixtures, but let's talk a little bit about Fulham, Man City for Everton. I think most of us were targeting DCL. How do you feel about Richarlison as an alternative now?
The fixtures for Everton are Fulham and Man City at home.
Right.
I don't mind it as a punt. It's not a long-term hold. That's the problem when it comes to Richarlison. But it can be a punt that pays off because he's got Fulham at Man City at home in 24, and in 26 he's got Saints at home and either Villa or West Brom away, which also looks like a pretty good double game week. So if you're getting a Richarlison right now, you're buying 5 matches in the next 3 game weeks because he's nailed. I don't see him missing any minutes or anything of that sort. So I don't mind the punt because you're buying 2 extra games as well.
He's not on penalties though. That put me off a little bit. Siggy took them last night.
Yep, so good. He had a great game, by the way. I think
Exactly. So, which is why I don't think Richarlison will get them anytime soon, because Sigurdsson's going to be playing.
Yeah. He's how expensive is he? Decent 1 week.
I think
2
he's
week,
7
3 week.
odd. I think maybe late 6, early 7, something like that.
Decent punt, I reckon, because I think he's playing really well. And what I noticed is once DCL went off the pitch, Richarlison and Sigurdsson were actually doubling as forwards. So there were two up front, and then there was Iwobi on the wings and Bernard on the other side. But these two are very playing far further up the pitch, so could be a shout.
That's
Sigurdsson
probably
for
because King was cup tied, right? I don't think King was eligible for this one. You
oh
don't
yeah,
know.
King
That'll be
King
he'll be in
is
the picture next time.
yeah.
So we'll talk about
For
20.
for people not having a wild card or not looking to wild card in the future, would you hold on to DCL?
I don't know the length of absence trend yet, right? I think we'll have clarity on that by the weekend. But judging by I think there's some speculation it's a knee injury or hamstring. I'm not sure, but I don't think he's worth holding on to personally without any clarity and timeline.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
Anybody
I'd
else?
agree. I'd agree. Like if there's no information, I don't think he's worth holding on to. And even if he's out for like 2-3 game weeks, I'd probably sell.
Right. So most
The
of
problem is if it was a short duration and if we don't get information, I don't like the fact that his second game is against City. It'd be worth waiting for if his second game was against Fulham and his first
Exactly.
game was against City, which is more likely than not a two-pointer anyway, right? Given City's
Exactly.
defensive form. So yeah, that's also one of the things worth pointing out.
right. So now before we move on to game week 25, I think a lot of us are going to be wildcarding that week. So let's talk about 1 week punts for game week 24. Why don't you guys tell me who you like?
Uh,
Um, yeah, sure, Pune.
do we want to go through all the double game week teams and options one by one, though, Zoff? I think it's a good idea to do that, like we did Everton. Is anybody just
I thought we'll go to the hot fixtures. Right? Once we go to the hot fixtures, we'll be discussing that anyway.
all right? Fair enough. Fair enough. 1 week punts that I like. Tarkowski and Ben Mee. Those are the two players that I like for just game week 24. Actually, like them more than Nick Pope as a pick, and here's my reasoning because the opponents at Burnley have Crystal Palace and Fulham in the last 6 game weeks. These two clubs are top of the league in terms of attempts from set pieces and headed attempts conceded. So I quite like that matchup. And Zoff, remember you spoke about this 2 or 3 game weeks ago also. Palace are absolutely terrible when it comes to defending set pieces. So this is the reason why I like the centre backs as an asset over Nick Pope. I know there's a lot of Nick Pope loving in the double game weeks, but I actually think the defenders are better shouts. There's one more stat which I read in David Monday's excellent article on the Scout as well. He said as of Saturday evening, in 12 matches against the top 10 sides, Pope has made approximately 5.1 saves per game. In the 9 matches against sides in the bottom 10 of the division, Pope averages 2.5 saves per game. And Crystal Palace and Fulham aren't exactly taking a lot of shots at the moment, which is why I don't think he's going to pile up a lot of saves. And they do concede a lot of set pieces and they do concede a lot of headers, which is why I think uh, if you're rolling the dice, I'd roll the dice on the defenders over Nick Pope. Sorry, FPL community.
Anything to add, Bakar? Who do you like from Burnley?
I still think I prefer Pope over the likes of me and Tarkowski. Yeah, I mean, Pernell raised a good point about the fact that he'll face fewer shots, but given the reverse fixture, I look at the game against Crystal Palace. He actually had 10 points in that game, and I've noticed that his minutes per baseline bonus ratio is actually so far and above the rest Burnley defenders that whenever Burnley are to keep a clean sheet, he's gonna haul for sure. So that makes me wonder whether he might be a better option than me and Tarkowski. I personally rate them in this order. I think Pope is the one to get. Then, if I was looking for a defender, I'd probably look at Tarkowski. Given the recent attacking numbers I see from him, I see he's top in the whole Burnley team actually over the past 4 game weeks for big chances. So he's getting in the box and he's getting some good amount of big chances. He's also creating a decent amount of chances, which probably through flick-ons from corners. So I think Tarkowski could actually be a good shot as well. Me tends to do better for bonus. Um, Honestly, it's a bit of a toss-up on who to pick. But if you're looking for bonus potential, then you should go towards me. And if you're looking for goal threat, then I think Tarkowski is the one to get. Other than that, I don't think there's anyone else worth considering in the Burnley attack because they're actually second worst for XG over the season, shots inside the box, XG non-penalty, big chances. So for all these relevant attacking statistics, they don't seem to be doing too well.
Did you see the Brighton game though? Did you see the Brighton game?
I was going to come to that. I I was actually very surprised to. I actually watched the match as well to read their data against Brighton. They dominated Brighton and actually were very unlucky to concede as well. Um, but having said that, I still don't think I need to see more from them over a large sort of a sample size to actually consider their attackers to be a reliable source of FPL points. I personally would not go there. So
It's a
yeah,
shame.
that's it for me as far as Burnley are
It's
concerned.
a shame you're not getting Woodbucker. Valentine's Day is around the corner.
This is
That
all
was
I have to say.
that's so well timed. That's so well timed.
So somebody.
But did you notice how far Lowton got in that game? He was almost through on goal once. I'm like, what is this? This is a Burnley right back. He's getting so far up the pitch. And then I was reading Tom Freeman's article as well, and he's mentioning that both Palace and Fulham like to concede a lot of chances in the right hand side as well. So I was like saying that yeah, I'm probably getting another Burnley defender, and I was like, worth getting Lowton because he was really far up against Brighton. And I don't know if this is something that's going to be a
If it's
recurring
going to be
practice.
Palace's right hand side, then wouldn't be that be Peters for Burnley?
I don't know. I always tend to get confused, but
Taylor
I
might be
trust
back.
I trust Freeman's judgment, and Freeman mentioned that
Okay.
both Goodmanson and Lowton are good because they concede chances from that side. So that's
Okay.
just something worth pointing out.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of other punts, maybe
You saw the
Cavani.
game and you were talking about how good Vidra looked in that game as well. Unfortunately, he's not going to be nailed. That's the problem because we don't know about Wood's fitness.
But
Yeah, Barnes was rested in the game in the FA Cup game versus Bournemouth, so I'd assume that he'd probably play both games.
right. But
And he'll likely be on pens as well, right?
yes, he took a penalty
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about single game week punts. That's
Just
what more
Doctor, before we move on to Burnley, just one thing I want to mention is that they don't have Brownhill playing in this. He's currently unfit, and Burnley have looked a lot better defensively with him in the team. So that's just something worth pointing out. I
Brownhill
think you
and
still take
Cock
a
also. I think he mentioned something about Cock, but let's move away from Burnley. I wanted to talk primarily more about single game week punts. Who do you guys like if somebody is wildcarding out to 25? I think there's Cavani. Probably the United.
Cavani and Shaw, yeah, those two.
The
those
United
two.
fixture is probably the one to target, right? If you're looking for your
Absolutely.
one game week punt, especially if Antonio or DCL is out, you need a replacement there. I think Cavani is by far the standout option.
Yeah. If it was me, I'd still go to Charleston for 1 week over Cavani. I like playing the double game week numbers,
I
even
would
though
say that
the
if it wasn't City and and even Fulham, in fact, to be honest, Fulham haven't conceded a lot of goals recently.
yep. I'd still play the odds with a double game week. I just feel like I like betting on that more naturally. It's how I'm wired as an FPL manager as well. Yes, the picture against.
So are you looking at Calvert-Lewin to Richarlison, given that you're wildcarding sometime soon?
Don't know. I think there's too much up in the air to make any decisions at the moment. I'm just assimilating information.
Yep,
If
I
when
personally
you
agree.
talk me into a Cavani over a Richarlison, I'm happy to do that. I'm not shutting myself towards it because Cavani was rested. West Brom are absolutely terrible. It's a good shout. Nothing against the shout.
So another thing you can do is if you're not planning to wildcard in 25 is bring in Ings a week early for his double in 25. That's what I might do. So let's talk now about that bit of strategy now. So what's made things a little bit tricky is we've had expected Leeds double to drop in 26. Now that's come in 25. So Panel, now somebody who's planning to wildcard next week, what is your plan with your Leeds players? What are you going to do? Are you going to bring in 3 Leeds, keep them for 26? What's the plan?
At the moment, I don't have a plan. I'm just assimilating information. I wrote an article on the Scout just talking about the factors to consider when it comes to players you should buy in 25, whether you should wildcard in 25. I even played around with the idea of wildcarding in game week 24 and then bench boosting in game week 25 because Leeds and Saints both have cheap assets at the moment, right? And it seems like if you look at the fixtures for game week 26, there are no standout cheap double game week assets. So it's going to be very tricky to have a double game week squad in game week 26. I'm probably going to have to rely on a few single game weekers like, let's say, Sanchez or Ben White, who have a good single game week fixture against West Brom, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure. At the moment, I'm leaning towards a game week 25 wildcard, but I'm waiting to see how the chips fall before making my move. I even thought about doing what you were planning on doing, which is dead end in game week 25 and wildcard in 26 so that I have a non-playing they're in game week 25 with a bench boost, so that I have a non-playing goalkeeper in 26 and I have a non-playing defender as my 14th outfielder, and that helps structure funds more correctly. And that's something we need to discuss, right? When it comes to meta strategy, the first point that we need to discuss is cash distribution. Because if you're wildcarding in 25 with the intention of bench boosting in 26, you're not going to have the right cash distribution. You're going to have four playing subs instead of two, which is kind of ideal. And that's important also because if you're looking at the fixtures in double game week 26, we likely have United, Spurs, and Liverpool having a double game week, and you're looking at three and City having a double game week. So you want a few big hitters in your team, and accumulating all those big hitters in the team might be a little difficult. Having four players on the bench as well, so it's going to be very tricky when I attempt to build that bench boost game week 26 squad. And I quite like the thought if it was possible. I even played around with the team. If I needed to bench boost in game week 25 just with free transfers, I needed to take a minus 12 over this game week and the next game week, so that I could bench boost in game week 25. But a few people who still have their bench boost chip pending and have a few Leeds assets already in play, I think it's worth using the bench boost chip now and then wildcarding game week 26 with a fresh slate.
Right.
What's your thoughts, guys?
I think first of all we should mention I think the bench boost chip is vastly overrated. It has a lot of potential to to limit you going forward, because what we've traditionally game week 37 has been the week where we usually bench boost, right, or something, or 34 35. We've never really done it so early on in the season. So, and we've been lucky the past few weeks that some of the heavy hitters have been injured. We've managed to distribute the funds around, but as we are seeing now, KDB is coming back, Kane is coming back. We're going to need the money in our front 11 soon. So you might get a short-term gain from the bench boost, but it could severely limit you going forward. So it's a bit of a poison chalice, and there's a balancing act that needs to be achieved here.
Correct. What strategy are you leading towards at the moment, Zo?
So right now, what I was planning to do was I was planning to bench boost in game week 24 with, like, let's say, like, two Burnley players, my Everton players, City players, and then next week in 25 bring in a couple of leads, bring in Ings, and then, like, wildcard them all out for game week 26, so I can have, like, bit of a rubbish fodder bench. Antonio's injury has made it a little bit complicated. If Antonio is fit, I'm still inclined to do that. I'd probably bring in me and Pope this week and do Antonio to Ings. I was going to do.
We also have DCL.
Sorry, not Anthony. I would do DCL to Ings. So, and then in next week, what I would do Souček to Rafinha. So I was going to do the Ings move anyway next week. I would be just bringing the hit forward by a week. And that way for 26, I can, ship all my Leeds players out. And I can have, like, my 3.9 goalkeeper. I can have, like, a Brewster over there. I can have a cheap defense. And more importantly, then I don't need to worry about my bench having good fixtures for 26. Because you also have to keep in mind 27, 28, 30, 31, 32, right? You don't want to waste transfers on those cheap defenders. Like you said, the Brighton guys, they have good fixtures after. So you want to get the Brighton guys in, and etc. So, and we'll talk about it later. It's a tough bench boost, particularly because you said all the big guys have decent fixtures, right? You'd want your likes of Kane, you'd still want Salah, you'd want Bruno. So
yeah, I was just looking at identifying certain bench boost players. I think when it comes to attack, there's enough value options in attack, even though there are single game weekers. Like I don't mind holding a Rafinha, for example, even if it's a single game.
It's better than a Lookman, for example. I totally agree.
Yeah, and even if he has a single game week, it's Leeds, right? Leeds are going to go for it. Leeds are going to attack. A lot of people are saying, "Oh yeah, look what happened to people who did that in game week 19." That's a one-off, yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
Leeds are an attacking team. I'm happy to bet on them. Just worth mentioning, Zoff, in terms of the strategy that you're thinking of, which is dead ending in game week 25. Worth mentioning for those it's easier for us because all three of us have a free hit chip in play. But those that don't have a free hit chip to use in game week 29, it's worth mentioning that if you're dead ending in 25 and if you're wildcarding in 26, you can have the likes of Leeds players or Brighton players who have Newcastle at home in game week 29, which is a blank game week, on your bench in that game week 2016, which helps you to see through game week 29 as well. Yeah. Which is something which you can't do if you're deciding on the bench boosting in 26. You just need to keep that 29 fixture list in mind if you don't have the free hit. And I think Brighton and Leeds players are a gift there.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Bakar,
before
where are
I
you at when it comes to
yeah,
strategy?
so before I speak about my strategy, I'd like to speak a bit about Ings because Zoff brought him up. I tweeted this very recently, in fact, earlier today, that Ings his numbers this season aren't exactly on a similar level to the numbers that he had last season. This season, his numbers have been actually quite poor. He's averaging 234 minutes per expected involvement, as compared to 151, which was his season average last season. So I'd like to get some Southampton attackers in for the doubles they have coming up, but I can't say that with any kind of assurance whether Ings will come good. I mean, they need to show some sort of form um, going into the
They
coming
showed it
weeks.
against Newcastle, in my opinion. I thought Ings looked sharper than he has in a long time. He could have had a brace or a hat trick in that game. That game had me convinced. Yeah, Newcastle were down to 10 men and then down to 9 men. But he got a lot of shots off. He got into a lot of good positions. I like the idea of getting onto Ings as early as game week 24. Even though Wolves look like they're back to bus parking at the moment. I mean,
Yeah, their
uh,
numbers have improved. Wolves
yeah,
defensively are doing better actually.
because they're not capable of doing anything in attack right now. So all they're doing is sitting
Yeah,
back and parking that bus, which is what
exactly.
they traditionally do. Uh, that's a perception change that we need to have as well, right? Because Wolves are Zoff, you mentioned that to me when I was talking about the Wolves picture. He's like, no, bro, they're back to bus parking now. So just something worth mentioning. I still like Ings as a shout, and especially because I think KWP is also back. Vestergaard is back. Romeo is back. So most of their big guns are also back in the team.
And
So I'm
Minamino helps
quite,
as well. Minamino creates, it's a good another, outlet for them.
yeah, good player, absolutely.
Great goal.
I'm pretty bullish on Saints, and it looks like they're going to have between 25 and 27 two double game weeks
Two
as well.
doubles, yeah.
So,
More on
so
Wolves. They're actually in the top five for big chances conceded over the past 5 weeks. Anyways, moving on about my strategy. I personally, at the moment in my team, I don't have any Leeds players, so I'm either torn. If I sell Cavaloon, I could actually have Bamford this week, but I'm not sure. If I wildcard next week, then I ideally would want to go for a double game weeker such as Richarlison to go for the upside. Um, I I I think I'm probably gonna wildcard next week, and I'm gonna go with the 26 strategy regardless of how it pans out, because I think I've kind of walked myself into it. Um, I'd also like to mention that we haven't spoken about Leicester, and I think their fixtures are really good going into game week 26 and beyond. They have Brighton and Sheffield in 27 and 28, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
So I
yeah,
think they offer really good options going into the double as well, because I don't think too many people will be looking at them. So I think for differentials, I'm probably going to go with some Leicester players as well. For 25, I'll probably go with Rafinha, Bamford for sure. I'm doubling up. I'll probably pick one Southampton player and perhaps Dallas. I'm not sure about that. And I am perfectly fine playing them on the bench boost against Villa in 26. I'm not going to be put off by the fact that they kind of flopped in Game Week 19 against Brighton. I, like yourself, I completely agree. It was a one-off, and for now, I think I'm going to stick to the Game Week 26 bench boost strategy.
Another thing worth mentioning here is people who are wildcarding in 25, they're probably going to have some Burnley assets because there's a decent looking double game week for Burnley in 24. But the double game week in 26 doesn't look that attractive for
Hmm.
Burnley. They've got Spurs away and Leicester at home. So that's something you worth mentioning that you can wildcard out of the Burnley
Exactly.
defense.
At the moment, I have Pope and me, and if they weren't, if let's assume by any chance, all the injuries to to Calvert-Lewin and Antonio, they kind of disappear and they heal in time, then I'll probably triple up on Burnley because I have Dyer and I'm just going to sell him for Tarkowski to go triple Burnley. So that's why I'm thinking, given the state of my team, I want a wild card as soon as possible because I've maximized him this week.
So,
Bakar, just speculating a little bit here.
Yeah.
If you are bench boosting in 26, name 4.8 or under four assets, two in defense, one midfield, one keeper that you like for the double game because I was struggling with this personally as well.
For the double game week, I'll probably pick some single game week options.
Okay, so you're
Yeah,
probably
and
gonna.
and, and I actually like Shaw at that price because I
I
think
like Shaw too.
Yeah, I think his numbers are elite, and United going into the game against Chelsea, as we mentioned, Chelsea aren't exactly creating much, and Palace, we know they without Zaha, which and that injury looks long term. Without Zaha, they don't create much at all. They haven't in fact scored a goal in the game that he started the season. Someone like a Shaw could be great. I'm looking at Leicester assets to fill my wild card.
Shame
Other than
JJ.
that, I'll
Shame
have
about JJ.
Rafinha, Bamford. So I don't think budget will be too much of a problem.
Kilman?
I don't trust him on bench boost. I'm not going to trust him. I already own him, and like one of the reasons I want rid of him is because I don't trust him.
Mm.
Fair enough. I think the problem is not going to be in there in attack because there's enough value attackers in the game at the moment. The problem is going to be in finding good, decent defenders for the double. And I think we're going to have to rely on some single game weekers for that bench boost, I reckon.
Exactly.
And they could easily
Zoff,
outscore the double guys because you look at some of the doubles, right? They're not very appealing for a lot of the teams. It's usually like we discussed, like there's one good fixture, one rubbish fixture. And that's something I want to touch upon for Southampton as well. Like a lot of people are assuming that you must load up on Southampton because they're going to have so many doubles. I'll just go through their double fixtures over here. So Chelsea Leeds I think is probably the best double they have out of the lot. Then you have Everton away and one of Spurs or City away. See, the thing is now after these batterings at these big teams, I think he might be a bit more defensive, right? When he goes away to these sides, you don't want to get beaten 9-0 again. Then you have Sheffield United who have by themselves tightened up a bit and they don't generally concede that many at home. And then one of City or Spurs. So they're not that great fixtures, and I think somebody like a Watkins is probably a better pick over there, or maybe a Grealish because Ings. I think you're probably going to have to decide between Ings, Grealish, Son, somebody like that. Like Son has Palace, for example, in 27. I could easily see him outscore Ings even with the double.
I think the realignment of that comes in thinking here is let's say in 26 they do have that one game against Everton. And Everton aren't a really good defense at the moment. And I think Southampton now are going to show some form because the team is in place. I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to realize that okay, Saints haven't been in good form. They just lost 9-0 to United, but they played kids in that game, and now they have their first team back, and which is why a few people might ignore the Saints. And how I'm, in terms of fine tuning my thinking is yes, I've got a good game against Everton for a Danny Ings, and then a free hit in the second game against the Spurs or a City, where he might or might not get something. And the good thing with the Danny Ings is for him, more often than not, one chance is good enough because of the caliber of the finisher that is. So that's how I'm just sort
No,
of
I
varying.
understand. But my point I'm just trying to drive home is we should not look quantity and quality are two separate things. Just necessarily
Exactly.
two doubles does not necessarily mean a player's a better pick. That's the point I just
Agree.
wanted to make.
Exactly.
Agree. Agree. Agree.
Let's have a move on to the next slide with the meta discussion we wanted to have on generally things we should keep in mind. First of
Yeah,
all, go
I'll
through it.
drive this discussion for you guys. Uh, the first one is cash distribution. I think we already covered that point, wherein it's easier to distribute the cash if you're wildcarding in 26 or onwards, because you don't need to have basically if you're wildcarding after your bench boost. Another thing that I thought is worth mentioning, which I think Zoff you touched upon previously, is European trends. Now, a lot of the big teams are going to be playing Champions League games, and for all we could see Pep preferring a certain set of defenders in the league and a certain set of defenders in the Champions League, or a certain attacker in the league and a certain attacker in the Champions League, and we won't know about this information or you know anything worthwhile drawing conclusion if you're wildcarding this early. We might get this information if you're wildcarding a little later. It's just something worth mentioning. Anything to add here? Yes.
No, I totally agree. And when is
Yeah.
City's first Champions League? Is it game week 25?
Just before game week 26
Just
is the
before,
first
so
game.
we get some idea. Like, yeah, you're right. He might prefer Laporte, might prefer Walker. We'll have some idea at least because they're much more comfortable in the league now. He can afford to attack Europe a bit more.
Yep, yep. I think generally when it comes to all your City assets, except for Ruben Dias, I think you need to expect your players to play 65 to 75% of the games.
That's
I think
tricky,
that,
right? Also, now going to City, you have so many doubles back to back. They could very well turn out to be single game weeks.
yeah,
Exactly.
agreed, agreed. But it's still the best team in the league, right? So you're worth it. And I feel like on my wild card, Gundogan is going to be a no-brainer no matter what happens because he's just breaking the game at the moment in terms of how he's playing. Even in the FA Cup game, you know, uh, if I wildcard in 25, I have a 1 week punt to take in 24 because of the double game week that they have. Yeah, Sterling looked electric, but Gundogan is in the box for every every ball that's coming in from the wing. So it's quite scary betting against Gundogan, who's in the form of his life right now. So yeah, just thought that's worth mentioning. And you'd expect Gundogan to play a higher percentage of the games compared to a Foden or a Sterling, right? Because of what he does for that team. So that's also something worth. And what we've seen historically as well, where Sterling is benched three out of is Sterling is playing 3 out of 4 games. Gundogan is playing 5 out of 6 games.
Exactly.
That's the sort of ratio and advantage which you get with
I think
Gundogan
he
as
will
well.
be a bit more conservative with KDB also this time. I don't think he'll run him to the ground like he did earlier because City are much safer. They're generally a much more smoother team now. I don't think he's going to play De Bruyne every minute of every game anymore.
Yep, yep.
While we're
Uh,
still discussing double game week options, are any of you looking at a Spurs defender for 26? I mean, I noticed their fixtures from 26 onwards are really good.
I'd,
Even
I'd
in
look at that.
27, they have like Palace coming up, and
Who's nailed? Because
then they're
we both of us got in dire thinking that he would be nailed. He didn't play the West Brom game, which we lined him
yeah,
up
this
for
is the
he's
because
problem. I mean, someone like Lloris could be a good buy, I
so
think,
expensive. When you have
given their
Martinez,
fixtures.
when you have Martinez delivering, do you really need to go that much for Loris?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at when I was searching for my second keeper on the bench boost as well, Bakar. Loris
Yeah,
was the only one that stood out. You're not getting a good set of fixtures from any other keeper.
exactly. Lloris is the only one that stands out. 27, he has Palace, and 26, he has Burnley,
I
and
mean,
another fixture which
I
is
think
likely to be favorable.
Mikati is a no-brainer, right? If you're wildcarding in 25 because you get the doubles at 25, 26, and 27.
My
Yeah, I
problem is
guess.
Zoff. I expect him to get dropped anytime now.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Literally anytime. That's my problem with trust when it comes to Mikati. I'm expecting Foster to come into the team very, very soon. If Foster's starting the next game, this game week, I'm delighted because I'm happy to have him as my second keeper.
Yep, absolutely.
It's actually very surprising as well, given the fact that Mourinho tends to have a very stable defense, organized defense, and the fact that at the moment we're having a hard time predicting even one defender who's likely to start all these games. I mean, that makes it hard. Um,
Yeah, Davinson
but
Sanchez
let's
last
see.
night, I think he scored a brace, right? I think he scored a
Yeah,
couple of goals last night. So you'd expect
Yeah, headers.
you'd expect him to
Those
hold
were
on to his
that was
team.
the Everton set piece.
So Toby and
yeah.
him, I think is probably the first choice going forward.
I think Alderweireld is probably the one who looks to be the most secure.
An old favorite.
I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah,
not sure about that because he's getting dropped randomly in the league games. So I just don't trust it enough.
Yep,
Trust
he's
it enough.
5.4 as well. So like,
not cheap.
I don't know. Probably not worth it, I
If
guess.
Yeah.
Regulon is out for an extended period, I don't know when he's back. I think Davis is quite cheap.
Yeah, Davies is 4.6.
Yep, that's probably where I'd
Yeah.
look. But it's a matter of time before he'll get rotated again.
Yeah. In that case, I just much rather double up on a United defense because at least you're getting all the defenders to play all the games.
I like
Like
Rudiger also 4.6. I think he's a great bench boost filler.
His fixtures in 26 I find tough. I'm pretty sure United are going to score against Chelsea, and then they have Liverpool. So that's what
That's what we were talking about.
puts me
One
off.
good fixture, one rubbish fixture.
But with Rudiger, the one thing I noticed, Bakar, is this. Have you noticed how Tuchel is playing at the moment? It's a lot of possession. So he's not conceding a lot of chances at the moment. So I like his odds of keeping one clean sheet, even in those two tough fixtures at the moment. Because Chelsea are pretty tight in terms of how
Yeah.
much
Their
they're hogging the
defensive
ball
numbers are
away.
actually they're actually second best in the league after City since Tuchel was taken over. That's fine, but I'd still expect United to score, particularly given the fact that United are playing away. United away from home are a different beast. Liverpool at Anfield, I'm fairly confident will score as well. So I don't really like going there, which is why I didn't really bring him up while we were discussing the cheap options.
The fixtures for Saints don't look that great, but are you tempted by Westergaard?
I like
He's got as
Westergaard.
much of a goal threat now,
Yeah,
as much
I
of a
like
goal threat as
I
Westergaard.
think
Davies.
Yeah,
he's the
Like
pick
he's
from their
such
defense.
a dominant force.
He came
Exactly.
very close
So
to
I think
dominant
scoring,
on set pieces.
I think the keeper is the one to get from Saints though.
but there's uncertainty. He needs one more mistake because he was at fault for one of the goals they conceded, right? The pass he made. So that's a risk.
Let's hope Forrester comes in this week.
Yeah, Foster needs to play this week. Then that decision becomes really easy because he's a 4.0 million goalkeeper as well, right? So that's saving you a fair ton of
Exactly.
cash as well.
Exactly.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, West Brom have some good fixtures coming up, but they're West Brom, so we're not gonna go there.
I think Pereira's form calls for a punt. Why not? Because he's been doing pretty well. He's
He
playing.
got benched randomly
Exactly,
versus
'cause
Spurs, versus the biggest.
Too much
Like
flair.
it's like exactly. I mean, it's too much flair for Big Sam. It's like the biggest Big Sam thing ever that happened.
And too many good
Scoring,
options in
scoring too many
midfield.
goals. Let's bench him.
Right, you have
Yeah.
motivation beach teams. You want to talk us through this one, Ella?
Yeah, the thing is that I think City are going to walk the league at the moment, and I think we're going to. This is another factor when it comes to wildcarding is that a lot of the teams are not going to have anything to play for very soon this season, in my opinion. We could see a lot of teams being on the beach a lot earlier than expected. I think we're already seeing that with the kind of performances Crystal Palace is putting in the league at the moment. So, what mentioning that, I mean, and let's say if Pep wins the league a lot earlier than expected, City assets sort of become maybe irrelevant. Maybe he just plays them around. I remember he did that last season where he kept playing them because he wanted to keep them sharp for the Champions League, which happened game week 38. But here, I think the Champions League is happening in the middle of the fixture congestion as well. So their main team or their first team starts getting benched in the Premier League if they've won the league. So it's something worth monitoring. And I think how you protect yourself uh, against teams entering into beach mode is I think focus on the teams playing for the top four, because I think that race is looking like the only one that's going to go deep into the season. So United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Villa, West Ham, all these teams hovering between second and ninth are the ones you bet on. That won't lose motivation throughout the season. Just thought worth mentioning that.
Definitely. But it's a bit early though. I think this comes into play around 31, 32. I think maybe like it's a bit early.
That's what I'm trying to say, right? This comes into play around 31, 32, which is why it's better. A lot of people are looking at dead ending in 29, which is the blank game week, and then wildcarding in 30.
Correct.
So that's one of the advantages of wildcarding in 30, where you know which teams have something to play for. If you're wildcarding right now, you're losing sight of what's happening there in game week 30.
Yeah.
So that's just something worth mentioning.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the next point is for bench boost 25, where you have Saints and Leeds with the double, and Burnley also with good fixtures. Talk us through that.
Yeah. I mean, I thought a lot of people might be having a good team because a lot of people are already on Bamford, Rafinha, Dallas. They own two of them, and people are going to bring in Burnley assets right now. So I think because Saints and Leeds assets are so cheap, and you're carrying Burnley into Game Week 25, who have a good fixture in Game Week 25, it might be a good idea to bench boost in Game Week 25, dead end your team, and wildcard in 26 with a thinner bench. There's something worth mentioning. That's all.
Absolutely. It's not just a thinner bench, right? We also might have more information about how 27, 28 will pan out. So there's also the value of information there, not just the money aspect. Short sightedness, you mentioned here. Talk us through that.
Besides, what makes this easy is Burnley's game against West Brom at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying. Burnley has good fixtures. Saints. So
Exactly.
it all depends on the rest of your makeup, right? The problem most of us are going to have there is West Ham. Like somebody like me, I'm tripled up on West Ham. I don't want no, three of West Ham players.
What's their fixture in 25?
Spurs at home.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good shot. Yeah, that's the only problem. If you're heavy on West Ham, yeah, that could be a problem.
Short sightedness.
Yeah, that's a worry I have in if I'm looking to wildcard in 25 is that I'm just going to look at on bench sheets those yellow fixtures and those brown fixtures, which are the double game
Exactly.
week fixtures. I want to make sure I'm not ignoring the fixtures 27 to 30 when I'm building my wildcard team. So you need to be very careful.
This is exactly why I brought up Leicester, because their fixtures not only 26 are decent, but after that are decent as well.
Yeah, good shout. It'd be nice if you're on wildcard in 26, 25 as well, so you can bounce off ideas. As far as I know, I think Tom Freeman is also on wildcard in Game Week 25. Maybe we get him on and 3 wildcarders.
Is he bench boosting in 26?
Yeah, he's looking to bench boost in 26 at the moment.
Right.
I was having a chat with him. He's looking at just diving into the fixtures today evening and seeing what he makes of it. Looking forward to listening to his opinion. We'll probably get him on the pod next week.
Hopefully. So let's have a look for triple captaincy. I think that's a great shout from 26 for Spurs, one of Son and Kane.
Yeah, because the fixture for Spurs in 26 looks like it's going to be Burnley at home and one of Aston Villa, Fulham or Saints. I think it's probably one of the best set of fixtures you can get for a triple captain player, and I think you go Kane there quite blindly. It's a really good triple captain shot. What do you guys think?
I think so, absolutely, because he's not going to get rested, right? That's the thing you know about Kane. He's going to play 180 minutes. And he's been taking a lot of shots. Even last night when he came on against Everton, he's just been shooting from everywhere. And he looks, I think, on another level as a captain pick compared to Son especially.
Yeah, agreed. Yours
Yeah,
is
I completely agree with the idea. I mean,
mm,
the fixtures there are standard. I'm sure most of us are, probably all of us are going to be captaining Kane in 26, or maybe Son, but one of the two, definitely.
no. Given the fixtures, I think they look like Kane
Kane
games to me.
fixtures, right?
I think.
Because Son is
Yeah.
like, as you've seen, purely a counter-attacking, largely a counter-attacking player. Like even the goal he scored against West Brom, that was literally the only counter-attack Spurs had that game.
Particularly the one against Burnley is Kane. That screams Kane points.
Yeah. Bakar, just talking as a strategy, if when the chips do fall into place and we have information in terms of how the game week 26, 27, and 28 fixtures are panning out, I think it's worthwhile looking at finding an opportunity in 27, 28, or 30, which might be a decent bench boost option because we will have some double game weeks then as well.
Yeah.
So if the fixtures are not falling into place as we want them to in 26, it's worth monitoring.
Exactly, but that
Uh,
depends on the information we get in the coming weeks. It's
exactly.
something we can't really decide right now.
Yeah, but it's worth mentioning
Yeah,
that on
yeah,
the
for
pod
sure, for
because
sure.
you
Yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah.
not
I'm
necessarily
keeping an
need
eye
to
on
bench
that.
boost
Yeah,
in
yeah, for sure.
26. Especially, I'm attracted towards that because the 26 TC for Kane looks the best bet that we're going to get for a while. So,
Yeah,
uh,
you have triple captaincy left, so you have all the more reason to, look elsewhere.
Right, Bakar and I have used it, I think, already
Yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah,
team.
okay, yeah,
yeah.
fair.
But will you still
Uh,
be wildcarding in 25?
yeah,
Yeah, all right,
why not?
fair, fair.
Yeah.
25 wildcard, 26 triple captain, and bench boost for some time later. Fair enough, that works.
The 25 wildcard also looks likely for me because combined Saints and Leeds, I own only Bamford at the moment.
I own
So
none.
Same.
that's the problem I have, and I like both the teams. I think when it comes to attackers, you can trust both Saints and Leeds. So
Exactly.
yeah, and Dallas also. Have you noticed how he's been playing? He's playing as the advanced midfielder in that Leeds team at the moment.
Very much Lundstrom role.
Yeah, and he's shooting on sight. Like every time he's getting the ball, what I've noticed is the first thought that comes to him is he wants to go for goal. Like so, yeah, looks like a really good
Yeah,
pick.
I'm tempted to
If
take a hit for
somebody,
him next week.
I think it's worth it. But the shot, especially because uh, you won't be too surprised to see Leeds cleaning against Wolves because Wolves aren't doing too much in attack at the moment. So that's a shot worth taking right now.
Yep. Right. So I think let's have a closer look at the fixture this week. We'll discuss more about the doubles more on next week's pod when we have more clarity about the fixtures. Let's talk more about now this week's games, starting up with Leicester Liverpool. What do you guys think here? Salah to return?
Yeah, I think this is gonna be. This is the game where Trent went crazy last season, if you remember
Correct.
correctly, right? Yeah, Leicester away is where, and if I'm not mistaken, Rogers has a tendency to get absolutely destroyed in defense, in terms of the number of goals he concedes against the big teams as well. If I'm not mistaken, they concede a lot of goals.
It's hit and miss.
Uh,
This year against Spurs, for example, they kept a clean sheet, so he's getting better at it.
he's getting better at it. Uh, I don't know, tough match to call. I'd say 1-0 victory or a 2-1 victory for Leicester.
I'd go the
Sorry,
other
for
way.
Liverpool, not for Leicester, for
We
Liverpool.
have to have one
For Liv-
every pod, right?
yeah, for Liverpool, for Liverpool.
I think Leicester are gonna win. I'll probably go with 2-1 Leicester. I think.
2-1 Liverpool for me. I think they'll bounce back after the defeat.
All right. Crystal
Palace
Palace
Burnley.
Burnley,
This is the first
not
of our
worth
double
this.
game week
Oh yeah,
fixtures.
I'd
yeah.
probably go 0-0.
No, I say 2-0 Burnley,
Two.
because they've
They're
been
going to
looking
score
pretty
two.
decent. Yeah, they've been looking decent in attack. I quite like their performance against Brighton. I'm calling 2 goals for Burnley, one headed goal for one of the CDs against Palace on a corner.
What about you, Zoff?
1-0 Burnley. Standard Sean Dyche score.
All right.
That's what I'm hoping for, at least. I think it could very well be 1-1.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Could be.
Just worth mentioning that Zaha's out very likely
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this game. And in all the games that Palace have played without Zaha, they've not scored any goals.
Yeah.
That's a crazy stat. I
I
think
don't
4
think
or
it's
5
all.
games.
Yeah, but
In the
4
game
or
he
5.
hasn't started. In the
But
game he
that's
hasn't
all.
started.
Yeah, four out of 5 games, they just don't score a lot when
Yeah. Yeah,
Zaha
yeah,
is out at the moment. So, yeah.
It's just surprising because you have that new guy Eze and like you have like Batshuayi, Benteke, etc. Just they do have some firepower. Let's see.
Batshuayi and Benteke is off no man. They're not
Even
good.
even this week, I mean, Leeds don't have a good defense, and even this week, Palace had the worst and lowest XG.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about the Burnley fixtures as a combined duo
Sure.
fixture, so that we can
Yeah,
talk about
sure.
double game week fixtures as well. So the
Right.
next game is Burnley at home to
Let,
Fulham.
let's talk about Fulham first. Actually, we haven't even mentioned them. They do also do have a double. It's worth remembering that. So let's talk about Fulham. You think it's worth investing? The defense. I had a look at some of the numbers. They have Robinson and Tete who have been getting forward. Defenses they're posting decent creative numbers. Lookman has been like a bit of Lamptey over there. A lot of promise, lot of potential, good underlying numbers, but just not delivering.
Yeah, the three picks that are worth discussing in that team. The keeper, I think, is
Ariola, yeah.
yeah, he's 4.5. Somebody's low on team value. I think he's a good keeper to have because he's getting a lot of save points for himself. Fulham have looked better every time I watch them. They're not giving a lot to their opposition at the moment as well. So I like them for keeping one clean sheet out of the two. And if you're betting on Arloa, you're getting some save points. And if you're betting on either of the wing backs, whether it's Tete or Anton Robinson, you could spike an attacking return out of these two games as well. So it's a decent fund, and none of them cost too much either. So
I
yeah,
think it's an outside shot for two clean sheets. Even Everton are without DCL. Burnley haven't got that much attacking threat. Like they could end up with two clean sheets. You never know. There's always these teams you don't fancy in the double game week that somehow, they bounce back at
mm,
this stage of the season. I've seen that.
yeah. This another stat that I read from Game Week 12 onwards. Only City and Arsenal have conceded fewer goals than Fulham at the moment. So they're doing pretty well in defense when it comes to conceding goals. And if you saw the West Ham game, they're not giving their opposition too much
No, they
at
didn't
all.
give them a sniff at all.
Yeah,
That was with the back four, not even with the
yeah.
back three. That was with a more attacking setup as well.
Yeah. So
I'd be a
when
little more confident if one of these games were home. The problem is both of these games are away games, and the Fulham home pitch is a different proposition altogether because of the dimensions. So yeah,
yeah.
Bakar?
So when I look at the Fulham assets, I mean Ariola is the only one who stands out to me. He's an absolute beast and he tends to make a lot of saves. I don't think Fulham will keep a clean sheet in either of the two games in the double. Um, in fact, in the past 6 game weeks, they what they're doing is they're not conceding too many chances. Sorry, not they're not conceding too many shots inside the box, but the quality of the chances they're conceding um, is actually very high. Over the past 6 game weeks, they're actually third worst in the division for big chances conceded, which is something that surprised me because I expected Fulham to be better. Um, I don't think I'd go there personally. I can't see a clean sheet for Fulham. As far as the attacking points are concerned, I don't think there's any standout pick in terms of their midfielders and attackers because the distribution of FPL points is such that it's very random. And I honestly don't even think they'll score too many goals. And even if they do, it's very hard to predict who's going to get them. So I won't be looking at a Fulham attacker
I
I
either.
think if they start Josh Maja, I think we might see something there because what's happened so far is Fulham haven't had a focal point up front, and Maja might change that. So it's worth pointing that out. Did you notice the amount of shots Loftus-Cheek got against West Ham as well? He got some 4 or 5 shots in that game as well. So
He had a good
just
game.
worth pointing out.
I think it's worth taking a punt on a Fulham defender though, because I think Burnley is everyone loading up on Burnley. If you're looking to differentiate, I think that's where I'd go for a 1 week punt alone.
Yeah, I'm looking at Robinson because if I'm upgrading Son to Sterling, which we'll talk about later, instead of Gundogan or Foden, then I can get a Burnley defender only if I lose Ruben Dias. If I'm losing John Stones, then I have only 4.3 million, and Anton Robinson.
He's
It,
4.4. I think Tete is
sorry,
4.3.
I have 4.4 million, and because there's a price rise for Lowton who's now 4.5 million, so I can afford the Fulham defenders only if I'm losing Stones. So yeah.
I think he's a decent option. I looked into their numbers. Robinson is by far the most creative defender. I think he's a decent pick.
And, yeah, and why I'm inclined towards it, I don't mind it, is because they have a focal point in their forward lineup, which wasn't the case earlier. So yeah.
Right. Let's move on to City Spurs. I think this is probably going to be one of our focal points for captaincy. No, in fact, let's cycle back a bit. What do we think about Nick Pope for
Yeah.
captaincy?
He's my vice captain at the moment, but I don't think he like I'd captain him over City attacker. Not when City are in the form of their lives and they're playing against you know Everton Spurs who've just conceded like 9 goals between them last night. I'd probably go Gundogan just to be safe.
I think he has probably a better floor, right, than Gundogan. You expect Pope to get at least one clean sheet, some saves, and you're expecting around at least 6 to 9 points for Pope as a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. He can even go bigger.
Yeah, he could get 2 10 pointers. It's not out of the question completely, right? I remember a few like years back we had De Gea being the highest scorer in a
Yeah.
double. I think 18 points or
I'm
something
not
like that.
dismissing the option. I kind of agree with your assessment, but I just think it's too risky looking past
I could
City.
start do it because it's just too annoying to watch. Every time there's a set piece, like there's a corner, and and plus we are going to be doubled or tripled up on the Burnley defense, like in your case. So adding the captaincy to that also, your heart rate is going to be pounding every time the ball goes out for a set piece and all that stuff.
Exactly.
And like you mentioned, right, Zoff, a few years ago, De Gea was the highest point scoring player in the double game week. And I'm so against the whole idea. It makes sense on paper, and he has a high floor and everything, but it's just against everything I stand for when it comes to this game and
I
everything
agree.
that FPL is supposed to be. Yes, City players are not nailed. Yes, you're looking at maybe 1 or 1.5 games for City players, but come on, this is not how you should play the game. Captaining, you're playing for points, but come on, don't captain a goalkeeper. This is not how you want to play the game. This is not how you want to watch the game. Yeah, if you're one of those players who are not watching the games at all and playing purely on stats and algorithms and all of that, fair enough, but it's just not for me. I'm so brutally against this idea because it just it just goes so strongly against the philosophy of FPL for me. You have Raheem Sterling, Phil Foden, Gundogan who can take away or beat Pope's haulage in 45 minutes of football. That's how good City have been this season. So you have to take that gamble. You have
I
to bet.
haven't seen you dismiss an idea this outrightly ever in my life.
It's just it's a question of philosophy for me.
We've touched
There's
a
a
nerve.
double game. Yeah, it's a question of philosophy. You don't play this game this way. Not for me. Not for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I understand. So now let's talk about captaincy in terms of City options. How do you guys rank? 'Cause Sterling, I thought, looked very sharp. He's got his swagger back, which was missing earlier on in the season. You can just see in the box, he's confident. He's making the right touches, the right move. I think he took his goal very well, getting in the right positions. I think he got subbed off early, and I think he will play both these games.
I agree. I think he's as good a captaincy option as Gundogan. Like if you want
Possibly
either,
better, right? Because there's some rumors of a Rodri injury, and what happens is when Jesus plays, Gundogan plays a little bit deeper. So I actually think he's
yeah,
better.
that
He's possibly a better option than Gundogan.
exactly.
Fair enough. I'm still monitoring and wondering what do you guys think about Foden now that he's had his rest and he had the best game of his life against Liverpool. What do you think about Foden? His underlines are not as strong as Sterling at the moment.
I mean,
What do
he's
you think
great to
about
watch.
Foden?
I think he's a good option, but for captaincy, he might be a step too far.
Precisely, because you wouldn't be surprised to see him benched in either of the games.
Okay,
That's the
fair enough.
problem.
You think he's still a little less nailed than Sterling, despite Sterling playing 55 minutes in
Possibly,
that cup
he's
game.
possibly as explosive.
Yeah, for sure.
As explosive as any of the three. But in terms of captaincy, if you're going for, let's say, if you go for one defender, two attackers, then the second attacker, I would very much like that to be Foden, because that's the differential you can really go for. Because everyone's going to have double City, and probably one attacker, right? The differential play here is going for two attackers.
What is your opinion there? Because like me, so right now, if I'm looking to wildcard in 25 as well, I'm not completely convinced because as you guys know, I have a triple City defense at the moment, right? And if you're talking about all the statistics that we spoke about, if you're talking about about Spurs conceding three-headed goals, Everton conceding three-headed goals to Spurs, that tells us that Everton are not looking exactly reliable on set pieces, and there is something in there for the City centre backs. And Bakar mentioned right at the top of the pod how absolutely far away from everyone the City defense is as picks. I mean, I could do something as simple as just getting an extra Everton attacker and a United attacker instead of making that switch. And in that case, the captaincy option for me becomes Cancelo because he was also rested in that cup game, and you're relying on him for the clean sheets, and he's got decent enough goal and
And you could
assist
even
levels
go
also.
Cavani. I think you could even keep the three and go Cavani as well. I think Cavani is being overlooked as an option.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, right? So I'm still in a dilemma because I have triple City. If I'm getting a City attacker, it's purely for the captaincy and nothing else. So it's a little bit of a dilemma at the moment. I'm waiting to see what Pep says. I
I
don't
think
think
I'd go
it's
with Sterling.
uh,
In your position, Sterling's ownership is so low. I think Sterling is the one I'd be tempted by because he has a very high ceiling and you have good history with him.
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
Sterling
That
His
was
is.
numbers
my
are actually slightly better than Gundogan's as well. Ever since De Bruyne has been injured, so I think that Sterling is a slightly better captaincy option than Gundogan.
what I noticed the last 4 game weeks. Sterling had 8 shots in the box. Gundogan had 4, but all the shots in the box that Gundogan had were all big chances because he's
They're all
just
in the
waiting in the
6
box
yard
for.
box.
Yeah, they're all in the six. He's basically doing what DCL was doing at the top of the season. He's in the box for the tap-ins all the time. What even if you're talking about margins, right? And which is why uh, it's more of a punt if I go for Sterling, is because if you're noticing that, let's say Foden is cutting in from one side and he's putting the ball in, Gundogan is sitting in the center of the box for the tap-in. Sterling is the guy who's sitting behind him, and odds are that the guy who's more further or closer to the pitch has the tap in. Sterling is still behind. So when it comes to and City are so template in their style of play that it's about crossing on the wings, put that cross in for the tap in. That's how they like to score their goals. Guardiola is all about patterns of play. So
But Sterling scored
I,
something like that recently, right? I remember just him tapping it in also. So it all
it was
depends.
Bernardo Silva's cross against Liverpool, and Gundogan again was in the center of the box for that cross, and Sterling was far post, where if you remember, Silva dinked it over
Yeah,
Allison
yeah, yeah, exactly.
into header to Sterling. So yeah, I'm still looking for Sterling, but I'm just loud thinking here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
More
all.
on Cancelo, captain. I still don't think I completely trust Pep to play Cancelo in
Yeah,
both games.
I don't
Very
either.
recently, you would have noticed that he was rested in the FA Cup fourth round versus Cheltenham, and then he played and got like a 17 pointer against West Brom. But then he got rested against Sheffield again. So like he was rested, then he played once, then he got rested again. So I can't say it with any kind of confidence that he's been rested. So he won't. He'll play both the games. I won't be surprised if he got rested after the Spurs game for the Everton game.
Yeah, I don't think I'd go
Yeah.
Cancelo at all. I think it's
Yeah,
too
exactly.
risky.
That's for precisely that reason.
One thing also that I want to mention when it comes to the City attack is if you notice the Sheffield United game, I think the Liverpool game is an anomaly because there's a rivalry there. And if they're putting 2 goals past Liverpool, they'll want to put a couple
More.
more because it's Liverpool and they want to make a statement. But
Yeah.
the games are coming every 3 days at the moment, right? And if you notice a few of the games before that, there's a clear I don't know if I'd say a strategy or an indicator for the attackers to conserve their energy once they have a 2 goal lead. They aren't exactly going full blow third gear, fourth gear stuff against a few of the easier teams because the games are so close by and he needs to conserve energy as well.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys noticed this.
No,
This
I
is also one
noticed
of the
this.
things.
I
Yeah.
noticed there's an article on
What
the Athletic about it also. How Pep figured out pandemic ball. That's what they called
yeah.
it, right? Pep has figured this out. Get 2-0, keep the ball, keep control, conserve energy because the games are so close.
Yeah. Which is why you see my dilemma, right, of losing a City defender. In their own right, City defenders are the best defenders in the game, whichever way you look at it, right, at the moment. So I need to think about it. Like you mentioned, Sterling is the one that's convincing me since the beginning of the game week. Sterling was the one I was looking at, targeting for captaincy
Yeah,
because he's
I
looking
wouldn't do it
sharp.
for Gundogan necessarily because I could see very much the defenders somewhat matching him, but I can feel if you have to go for
Go for
upside
it.
chasing,
Yeah, go for
Sterling's the
Sterling.
one to go for.
All
Right.
right.
Let's move on to our
Off Foden, you never know.
Foden's probably a punt too
Mhm.
far, but anything else you want to talk about captaincy before we move on to our teams? We are already close to 90 minutes here.
I
No,
think
I
we're
think
done.
we're good.
Right. Let's move on to our teams then. LR, you're first.
I'm just going to read out my team for the benefit of my listeners. I think I've spoken about strategy enough. As my keeper, I have Martinez. Yay, beat Nick Pope by 8 points. I love that. Absolutely love that the Pope owners got punished last week. Sorry, Bakar. I think you got him.
I
Sorry.
was one of them.
Yeah, sorry. Because Martinez is such a god. You're just the people who got Pope over Martinez are just ungrateful people, in my opinion. Never mind. Zoff, you want to say something?
No, I was just saying that, I was considering that move, but you know what pushed me off? You remember that fixture, I think, last year when we played the free hit, right? I think Burnley were up against Brighton. I doubled up on the Burnley defense that week, and I remember Bissouma scored an absolute cracker.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and Brighton completely dominated that game. So I just had an inkling that could happen again. So that's why, like, and plus, if I had two free transfers, I probably might have done it instead of letting one go. But like, like we talked about last week, I really wanted to save the transfer, so that
Yeah,
that saved me, I think.
fair, fair. Uh,
Go ahead.
in defense, I have got Triple City, Cancelo, Stones, and Diaz. And I've got Ben Mee. At the moment, the armband is on Cancelo. But in midfield, I have Salah, Son, and Fernandes. Up front, I have Antonio, DCL, and Bamford. So I'm waiting for news in terms of if we get any sort of news when it comes to DCL or Antonio before making my moves. Uh, if That's also a thing worth considering, guys, because if DCL is confirmed out, I need to take a -8 this week because, or I just play Barnes against Liverpool because I'm making the transfer to shift Cancelo out to get a Burnley or a Fulham defender, and then I'm grading Son to Sterling as well. So yeah, that's also something worth considering. Lots to ponder. I'm far from deciding where I'm going. Then the game week. On to you, Zoff. Or Bakar, I think
Bakar
next.
first.
Yeah, so I have Pope in goal, Cancelo, Stones, me. Um, I have Dyer, but I plan to sell him for Tarkowski. Gundogan is my captain. Salah, Bruno, Suchek. I'm playing this week, unfortunately for all his owners. Up front, I have Calvert-Lewin and Antonio. Hopefully, one of these two will be fine, so that I can replace the other with Watkins from my bench. The alternative I have is to sell Calvert-Lewin for Richarlison rather than make the Dyer to Tarkowski move. And I can't really make my mind up as to who's gonna score more points. Would you guys go for someone like Richarlison, or do you guys prefer the security of someone like Tarkowski?
I
I
would
already
play.
have double Burnley defense, by the way, so like it's kind of hard.
No, no, man. We don't believe in baskets out here. I would triple up on Burnley, especially if you're looking at a wildcard in 25. But I would have no cons playing Watkins also. I wouldn't take a hit there. I think he's a
Yeah,
good
I'm
pick
not
against
taking a
Liverpool.
hit.
A
Yeah,
free
yeah, yeah. I'm
transfer.
not taking a hit.
It's a free
Two free
Yeah, yeah,
transfer.
yeah.
transfers.
It's a free transfer. I'm
One
not
free
taking a
transfer.
hit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because if Dyer is out, he's getting Tarkowski, and then if DCL is out, he can just play
Yeah, then he
Watkins
can play
in.
Watkins or even Son. I don't mind even playing. I think Son could get something.
Yeah, Son is my second sub at the moment. As I iterated in my stats, I don't see Spurs doing much,
I would play,
which is why.
bro. You should play Son over Suchek. You're not playing like. There's no way you should be benching Son. I don't know. I wouldn't personally never do that. I think I would definitely look to play Son. Like, Kane is back. Son's got a good record against Man City. Scored against them several previous times. One guy you should be worried about in that City game is Son.
I agree.
Uh, I agree to an extent that yeah, he's a prolific goal scorer, but then again, I don't think I'm gonna go that route because
I
I'm
mean,
I'm a very
he
firm
had
believer of
zero
stats.
shots. What do you mean you believe in stats? Suchek had zero shots against Man United. Son had like multiple. What are you talking about? You believe in stats and you're
Suchek
playing a
has
guy.
Sheffield United at home coming up.
But so what? He had zero shots in the double. You're playing him over Son.
Okay, you don't
Makes
need to
no
convince
sense.
me. I'm not gonna listen. I'm very stubborn now.
Suchek
Like
has started playing games with your head, Bucker, for sure.
I know, right?
For
He
sure.
calls himself a stats guy
he's
and he
just
plays Suchek.
he's
I'm
just there.
disappointed.
I
I'm
just want to see what
disappointed.
happens when I play him.
You're cutting your nose off to spite your face here.
So yeah, that's I have Martinez on the bench, Watkins my first sub, Son my second sub, and Kilman my third sub at the moment.
I'm worried about your bench this week, Bucker. I see some points there.
I'll,
I
I'll
really
probably
do.
play I'll probably play Watkins and sell Dyer for Tarkowski. That's the plan.
You know what? If
Fair enough.
if Calvert Lewin was fit, I could have actually convinced you to bench boost this lot. Like
I
if you have
agree.
got
I
Dyer
agree.
and Kilman out, and then you'd had a decent bench boost team.
Yeah,
He,
I
he
did
can still
consider
he
it
can
for a bit.
still get Dyer and DCL out and bench boost. I don't mind
Yeah,
playing any of the
yeah,
four.
Kilman away to Southampton is not bad given how they've been playing. It's
Yeah.
not actually a bad shout. You could think about that, Bucker.
Yeah, perhaps, but it depends on the injuries, honestly.
Because let's say if Antonio is fit, you could just ship DCL and Dyer, and then you could get in a Cavani for this week. Cavani will also hold you, or even an Ings, right? You can get an Ings this week, gives you a doubler for next week. That way, and you have Dyer in place, or with get a Burnley defender there.
Yeah.
Something to think
Yeah.
about.
And you just ignore Kilman because Son, Watkins, and Martinez is a good bench boost. Whichever way you look at it, no matter what
So
fixture.
and
They're
Kilman,
all
like I
three
said,
good
Wolves have
picks.
been doing all right since they've gone to the back three, and Kilman is like yourself, he's good for bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's something I've considered. I'll probably put more consideration into it.
Yeah, it all depends.
Yeah, just see how the chips fall. I think this is going to be a Saturday morning decision for you
Exactly.
after all the news that we get. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get half an hour call before deadline again.
Of course.
I think
All right, Zoff,
a
your
lot of
team.
our strategies now depend on Antonio, right? Antonio's fitness is a big thing because I don't think any one of us we're okay with taking a 4, but we don't want to take an 8 to bench boost him.
Yeah.
So on the similar position, I've got Martinez, Diaz, Cancelo, and Maguire in defense. Salah, Fernandez, Gundogan captain, Son, DCL, Bamford, and Antonio on the bench. Foster, Suchek, Sufal, and Dyer. So multiple options here. I was initially pretty sure I was going to be bench boosting this week. I was just planning. I have 2 free transfers, so I was planning to do Foster and Dyer to Tarkowski and Pope. But now, if DCL and Antonio are both out, it's a bit trickier because I have to take a -8. If Antonio is fit, then I'll probably shift DCL out for Ings, and then next week
Do
just
the BB.
do the BB. Then next week get in Rafinha and Dallas, and then ship them all out for
Fair enough.
26. So something I've
Fair
got
enough.
in mind. So
I like it. It's
Yeah,
a
I
good
agree with that
opportunity. Yeah.
completely.
Yeah. For those heavy on West Ham, it's a good week to bench boost. It definitely is. Sheffield United at home, you got to take your chances.
got to take it there. Right. So let's
All
move
right.
on to the Q&A.
Yeah. Very few. I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah, we can just breeze
in
through. We're
term-
pretty much on time also.
I think this is pretty much our longest pod yet. I'm
No,
sure.
we've gone close to like 1 up 45. We have not even hit 90 yet.
All right. I mean, the
All right.
first 3 questions we've already covered. I'm just moving on to the fourth one. This is from Bleed Blue, CFC at the rate CFC Bleed Blue. With the current template extremely strong, I'm stuck in the 50k to 100k overall range. To push further, should I take massive risks now or just keep chipping away by staying in the template? So I think you're in the same position as him. What do you have to tell him?
I think don't necessarily try to differentiate for the sake of it. And there's, like we touched upon earlier in the podcast, a lot of value to holding rank at this stage. You have to keep in mind there's no space above 50k, right? So a lot of managers are replacing. There's a constant churn of people dropping out of the 50 to 100k and coming back in, and it's pretty close. I think 5-6 points is like about 10 to 20k right now in terms of rank, and the template by itself is going to shift now in the next few weeks because of the chips.
Right. Again, the next two questions is something we've covered. There's one more question from Chinmay, something we haven't considered yet. Should you bring in KDB as soon as he's back or wait for a week or two? Also,
I'd
should
wait
you
for a week
consider...
or two.
I
You'd
don't
wait
think
for a
I'll be
week or two?
getting him again this season because I think Pep's going to be very careful with his minutes now going forward.
Yeah. And Gundogan is a game breaker. Like, I think you have him at that price. You need to have him. At that
City are doing so well without him. I don't see any reason for Pep to rush him back and play him every game.
Fair. Good point. Good point. And he's going to safeguard him for the really important Champions League games, you reckon?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Last question. This is from FPL Nick. Having looked at Leeds assets, how many would you keep on a wildcard 25 if you're looking to bench boost in 26? I can answer this question.
Go for
If you don't have a free hit in 29, then I'd look to keep 2 or 3 because you have 2 or 3 more assets to play in game week 29. And I think Leeds are few of the only cheap assets that I'm okay playing in any fixture because they're always on the attack. And if you don't have, if you have a free hit in 29 and you're not worried about 29, I think you at least go for Bamford and Rafinha. I'm very tempted to go for Dallas as well, and then you hit 2 out in game week 26. That's what I do.
Probably hold on to Bamford, right? Because Bamford, again, it's a bit of a season keeper.
Exactly. All right, that's it from us for this week's pod. We spoke about a few prizes, and I just want to mention that this week's, if you've joined our league, the league code is mentioned, and we mentioned it at the top of the pod as well. If you are the best FPL manager in game week 24, then you're going to get a shout out, a video shout out from JJ. Now, JJ is one of the top footballers in the country. He's a striker. He's played for a host of top Indian clubs and has scored in the national colors as well. So buckle up, make sure you win game week 24 and you get a shout out from JJ. More shout outs in the coming game weeks as well. That's it from us this week. Hope you enjoyed the pod. See you on the other side.
Thank you. Like and subscribe
you.
as usual.
Bye-bye.
See you guys next week.